becoming a Trump team leader. Earn points, get rewarded, get frontline access. Get the presidential photo. Oh, and did we mention, this is your personal shopper too? So just to repeat, this isn't just an app. This is your tool to keep America great. Join the army for Trump and download the app today.
Trump campaign is now reaching voters online.
You are seeing the President of the United States. Look at the lines. You join our movement. A lot of President Trump supporters here.
Greatest movement in the history of our country. The silent majority is stronger than ever before.
For all of the comments that Joe Biden has made that have been bigoted, for all of the policies that Joe Biden has made that have really, really hurt the black community and set us back, Joe Biden needs to apologize and needs to stay in his basement.
But if you just take a step back for a second, think about the way that China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, all of our adversaries around the world are salivating, thinking that this guy is going to be the possible president of the United States.
What we would have is a systemic recession if it was a Joe Biden administration come November, because he would start implementing policies that we know are regressive in nature, that we know are not good for the economy. It would be about higher taxes and more regulation.
President Trump delivered the hottest economy on record that had to be artificially interrupted by the coronavirus. When we compare the work President Trump did to build that strong economic foundation with basement barely there Joe Biden.
Behind Biden is a machinery that is very dangerous, very progressive.
You want a leader, you want someone who stands up and tells it like it is, who tells the truth no matter what this group or that group or the media and some source or another might say. The only choice is Donald J. Trump.
We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. We will make America great again.
Welcome to Team Trump Online.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Team Trump Online. I'm your host, Lara Trump, and we've got another great show tonight. We began Team Trump Online to bypass the fake news media and deliver President Trump's message directly to you, the American people. So tonight, we have two political minds joining us, and together we'll break down how the fake news are propping up Joe Biden's failing campaign. Let's please welcome Corey Lewandowski and Bob Paduchik, senior advisors to the president's re-election campaign. Gentlemen, welcome to Team Trump Online.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks,
All
Laura.
right.
Great to be with you.
Well, we're so happy to have you guys on the team, and we want to talk about so much tonight. I want to remind everybody at home, please like and share this broadcast with your friends. So guys, let's begin by discussing something that terrifies the mainstream media and the Democrats, the incredible enthusiasm that America has for 4 more years of President Donald J. Trump. With around 4 months to go until Election Day, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. The enthusiasm gap between President Trump supporters and Joe Biden supporters is, as the president might say, huge. And the campaign just recently released a memo outlining that very gap. Bob, we saw the impressive turnout for President Trump in the states that have already had primaries, especially when you compare those numbers to Joe Biden's. What do these numbers mean? Break it down for us. What is your response to all of this?
Well, look, the president's numbers couldn't be better in the primary. He's getting 94% of the vote, and Joe Biden's only getting 50% of the vote, which is about 5 points less than Hillary Clinton got in 2016. And Laura, it isn't just about percentages. It's also about the number of votes. The president, each state he has a primary, he is breaking the record in votes that come out for him, even though he has no opposition in this campaign. It's amazing.
No, it's really amazing. And just to remind everybody, We all remember what happened to Hillary Clinton in 2016. You pointed out that the Biden's numbers, Bob, are even lower. So,
right.
Corey, we've also seen polling of enthusiasm levels in key states that are extremely telling of just how unpopular Joe Biden is as a candidate. Can you share some of that information with our viewers?
Laura, you have to remember, Joe Biden is now running what I call the Tahiti strategy. He might as well be in Tahiti because he's sitting in his basement, not actually running for president of the United States. So what we see in these key battleground states, and really, when you break this down, there's only 7 or 8 real states that are going to determine the outcome of this election. You look at states like Florida, of course, the true battleground of battleground states, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, the state of North Carolina, all states that Donald Trump won last time. What we know about the Trump supporters are they will chew on glass and climb over barbed wire to vote for Donald Trump because of the promises he's made and the promises he's delivered for the American people. And the converse of that is, and this is shocking to me, after almost 50 years in Washington, D.C., people still don't know Joe Biden. And this campaign is going to define the failures of Joe's 36 years in the U.S. Senate and his 8 years as vice president, because what we're looking at as we go forward is the true opportunity to either keep your lifestyle, if you like it, with Donald Trump, or have the far left progressives fundamentally change the way our country functions if you elect Joe Biden. That's what this is about.
Yeah, it's actually very scary whenever you think about if things went the wrong way here, what would happen to this country. I mean, it's literally the only thing I think that is keeping this country America, and the America we've always known, is President Donald Trump. Guys, despite the best efforts of the media to try and suppress our support for President Trump, Corey, you're right. I hope people don't have to climb over barbed wire or chew on glass to go vote for Donald Trump. But it is very clear that the enthusiasm is on the side of President Trump. Bob, I want to go back to you. Can you tell us about your experience in your state of Ohio and how extraordinary the ground game coupled with enthusiasm is? It's a really a winning combination for turnout when you compared that to the really unenthusiastic Biden base.
Absolutely. I mean, first off, 4 years ago, this would have been my second week on the job, and we were building the ground game, sort of like building the airplane while it was in the air. And it couldn't be a completely more different situation than where we are in 2020. We have 4 times the staff that we had at this time. And these folks have been doing voter contact for months. In re-elections, as Corey knows, are base elections. Turnout matters. Who you get to show up on election day in a base election is everything to winning and losing. And we're just miles and miles ahead of where we were 4 years ago.
Yeah, well, a happy anniversary, maybe I should say to you. We should have talked 2 weeks ago, but you were such a key part of the team in 2016. We're so happy to have you on board now. But Corey, you brought this up a few minutes ago. It is very telling, I think, that Biden's advisors actually think it's a winning strategy to keep him in hiding in his basement. It's very clear that they're nervous about this guy getting out on stage. They're nervous about him interfacing with voters and being on national television and taking questions from reporters. I mean, we're looking at 88 days now since Joe Biden actually had a press conference. So, Corey, would you share your takes on why this clear enthusiasm gap is no doubt scaring the media and the Democrats? And Bob, I'll get your reaction on that after Corey finishes.
You know, Laura, most of the mainstream media has just simply become an extension of the Democratic Party, and they've given Joe Biden a pass for some not just gaffes, but his inability to put together coherent sentences. Just last week, Joe Biden said 120 million Americans died from COVID-19. That's 1/3 of the U.S. population. I said, oh my God, that's a lot of people. Of course, it wasn't anywhere close to that. This is the crazy thing. And so when you look at the enthusiasm that President Trump has, and you juxtapose that with Joe Biden's strategy, and if I was Joe Biden's advisor, I'd be telling him the exact same thing. Right. Stay in the basement. Don't come out in public. Don't talk about the geese outside your window that might be making some noise. Don't talk about corn pop and all the crazy things that you've talked about. Don't be kissing your granddaughter on the lips for 5 and 6 seconds at a time. It's creepy. Don't talk about the kids pulling your leg hair. Just stay in the basement. And look, here's where we are. Donald Trump has an unparalleled record of accomplishments over the last 4 years. He has delivered on everything from, if you care about national security, he's increased our funding for our military, our men and women on the front line. If you care about homeland security, he has built over 200 miles of a wall on the southern border, so we knew he was coming in. If you care about economic security, he built the greatest economy the world had ever seen in 3 years, and he can redo it. So that is the reason you see such a strong base of support for this president and such a weak base for candidate Biden, because he's hiding. And look, one last thing. I want to see Joe Biden on the debate stage. We all remember what Donald Trump did to crooked Hillary Clinton on the debate stage. I think that's where he won the elections. Joe Biden's advisors are saying, stay in the basement, Joe. Don't get on the stage. Donald Trump is going to destroy you. So let's get him out in front of the American people, and let's get him to answer some real questions for a change.
Yeah, well, it's really true. There are a lot of people, Corey, by the way, that think that the Democrats are going to push so hard that we won't have any debates. I can tell you that is not acceptable to President Donald Trump. The American people deserve to see what Joe Biden has to say on a lot of fronts, because, again, he's been getting a pass. I mean, Bob, what do you think? Has the mainstream media really been covering for Joe Biden? I think they've just been letting him get away with not coming out, not talking to the American people. He does these very softball coddled interviews where it's scripted and he's looking down the whole time. He looks like he's asleep most of the time. If not for the mainstream media propping this guy up, what would happen to Joe Biden? What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, in any normal election cycle, to have a candidate not do a press conference for 86 days now, it's just mind-boggling. The media would have never let a candidate get away from that. And the only reason why Joe Biden gets away from it is the fact that the media are in the bag. As Corey said, they've become an extension of the Democratic Party.
Yep, the marketing arm for the Democrats. All right, guys, stay right where you are, and everybody at home, stay with us. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with more Team Trump Online.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
My administration will take all necessary steps to safeguard our citizens from this threat.
Hysterical xenophobia.
Giving Americans a false sense.
Is it accurate that if these steps had not been put in place, it could have been 2 billion people dead here in the United States?
Yes.
No matter how hard they try to stop us, they can't. We built the greatest economy the world has ever seen, and we're going to do it again. Together, we're beating back the invisible enemy.
What the federal government did was a phenomenal accomplishment.
Through it all, the world has witnessed the unyielding resolve of our incredible American people.
Promise made, promise kept.
And I'm fighting for you, and I love doing it with everything that I have. And you know that. With the grace of God, we will win this war, and we will win this war quickly. And we will make America great again.
Welcome back to Team Trump Online. With us tonight are Bob Paduchik and Corey Lewandowski, senior advisors to the president's campaign. Gentlemen, we just discussed why this enthusiasm gap is a real problem for Joe Biden. In response, we've seen a full-on assault from the media using flawed and outdated polling methods to try and dampen our enthusiasm and suppress our supporters' votes. Clearly, these pollsters and pundits did not learn their lessons from 2016, because we all remember what they said back then. Corey, walk us through these flawed polling results. What's wrong with them? Why can't we really believe them?
Well, Laura, look, I want to take you to the Wayback Machine. I know it was a long time ago, but let me just tell you how crooked and dishonest the media has been and for how long they've been. I went back and looked in July of 1988. 1988.
Oh, wow.
At the time, Governor Michael Dukakis was running against a guy by the name of Vice President George H.W. Bush. And in July of 1988, the New York Times predicted that Michael Dukakis would be the president of the United States because he was winning 55-38. Now, as we all know, there was never, thank goodness, a president Michael Dukakis. But this is what the media has done for the last 30 years of polling data. They did it to us in 2016 because they do it to suppress the people's opportunity to show up and vote. What they say is Donald Trump is going to lose in a landslide, so don't bother coming out and voting. And it was only through the sheer will of Donald Trump's tenacity that he went out and campaigned 10 times harder than crooked Hillary Clinton did, doing 4, 5, 6 rallies a day in 3 time zones. And I remind our listeners tonight of this. Donald Trump won Michigan by 10,704 votes. The last rally of the campaign happened to be in Michigan on early election morning of 2016, where he put 14,000 people in the arena. If you would have believed the media's polling data going into Election Day, and we've seen it all, the New York Times said Donald Trump had a 1% chance to win. The Washington Post said his chances were approaching 0. Many others said the biggest defeat in modern electoral history. They were all wrong. Donald Trump won in such a decisive victory in 2016, he could have technically lost the state of Florida and still been elected president of the United States. The mainstream media does this to suppress the voters on the right, to keep them from coming out. They were wrong 30 years ago with George H.W. Bush and Michael Dukakis. They were wrong 4 years ago with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, and they're wrong today.
Yeah, I actually think, Corey, that they are even more inaccurate now than they were in 2016. I think when they actually bother to do polls and when they actually go out and talk to people, people are not going to talk and be honest with a pollster right now. I knew that the exit polls in 2016 would be wrong because everywhere I went, people were like whispering to me in 2016, you know, we're voting for Donald Trump. And I said, this is going to be a landslide victory, but they're not going to be honest with the pollsters. I don't think they're being honest now when they are actually polled. But we see this polling data, it's like 25 and 26% Republican. How does that, you know, accurately reflect the voting population in this country? I'll give you a hint. It doesn't. We saw in 2016, public polling was a completely flawed way of capturing the feeling of the nation. So, Bob, what would you tell voters who see these polls and wonder, is that really what people think? What do you want to say to the voters out there?
I would say that the polling now has just become one more type of fake news for some of these media outlets. They put these things together to, as Corey said, to suppress enthusiasm for the president's campaign. And you need to look past that. I think there were a lot of voters in 2016 that didn't look at those polls, and they didn't let those polls keep them from supporting the president. And now we just need to keep focused and do what we can to reelect him. We need to keep fighting.
That's right.
Well, Lara, just one thing. You know, we've heard this now from the mainstream media. Texas is now a battleground state, right? Arkansas is up for grabs. You know, let me just remind our viewers tonight, the last statewide office holder to win a seat in Texas was 30 years ago. Her name was Ann Richards. It was about 3 decades ago. If that is the criteria of determining a state that's a battleground, then Massachusetts is now Donald Trump territory because it's a Republican governor. I mean, look, this is the media narrative. Never, ever, ever do we hear the media saying Republicans have a great chance of picking up a new state. Not in Minnesota, where we know we can win. Not in New Hampshire, where we're going to win. Not in Arizona, in Nevada, in New Mexico. It's always the other way, and they're always wrong.
Yep. Well, there are 2 words that I want everyone out there to keep in mind. Silent majority. It was a silent majority in 2016 that elected Donald Trump. There is an even larger, I believe, silent majority out there now, especially, guys, when we see that the radical anarchists are trying to destroy America. When you see what has happened in all of these Democrat-run cities and states across this country, the lawlessness, the defund the police movement, people want law and order, and they know that the only person who is going to be able to do that is President Donald Trump. He is the law and order president and will continue to be. Corey, talk to us about that silent majority. Who are they?
Well, Laura, they're the people who, you know, don't want to be chastised for supporting the president because it's easy to call the president xenophobic and a racist. But his record is very different. You know, it's very easy to say he doesn't respect women, except when you look around his administration, all the women who are in positions of authority, when you look at what he's been able to do on criminal justice reform, which Barack Obama never did, empowerment zones, making sure that the African American community had the lowest unemployment rate in the history of our nation. All of those things were done by President Donald John Trump, not by Barack Obama or anybody else. And so, you know, what you see now is it's easy to call the president names, but his record doesn't bear that out. We're going to see those results on Election Day, and I'm going to make a prediction today. Donald Trump is going to receive a higher percentage of the African-American vote than he did in 2016. And now, look, it was 8% in 2016. It doesn't sound like a lot. Bob Dole received 12% in 1996. Donald Trump is going to surpass those numbers because I like to say this about Donald Trump, and I think I can say it because I think I've earned it. He's an equal opportunist. He doesn't care if you're white or black, green or orange, purple or blue, male, female. He treats everybody exactly the same. And that's what America wants. Everybody should be treated exactly the same. And as a law and order officer, a person who graduated the New Hampshire Police Academy, someone who served on the thin blue line between good and evil, someone who understands what it's like to put on the uniform and a badge and a gun and go out and protect people, you want that chief executive officer, your president, to support you. We are a nation of laws. And those laws are, regardless of your age, your ethnicity, your demographics, your socioeconomic status, your gender, it doesn't matter. Everyone should be treated equally. And my experience with Donald Trump over the last 6 years is he treats everyone the same. We're a nation of laws, and we're going to uphold those laws for everybody.
Well, there are a lot of people out there, Corey, we like to say that they are woke now, who are really, like, literally awake. They have seen the truth about Donald Trump. They know that they have been hoodwinked and bamboozled by the mainstream media, by all the nonsense that you just laid out that they like to try and say about this president. But they truly are the silent majority. Bob, what do you think about the silent majority? I mean, do you think that it's more now than it was in 2016?
Absolutely. I mean, today we live in a cancel culture where people attack you because your political beliefs. And you really can't blame the average supporter that doesn't engage in politics every day like we do. You can expect them to hold their tongue or to whisper, to be a little bit quiet, because they know that they're going to take the abuse that the president takes on a day in and day out basis. Well, not every supporter is as strong as the president, and they don't have to be. They just have to remember to vote. They just have to remember to do their part. And I'll walk around the Home Depot with a Trump campaign T-shirt on, and the guy that's chopping the wood there for people, cutting the wood planks, will say, hey, you got to make sure he gets elected. Or the gal that's over at the checkout area says, hey, I'm supporting him. I'm glad you are too. And they say it like it's almost like a secret society. Yeah. But that's what the cancel culture has created. So yes, the silent majority is bigger and it's quieter.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think on November 3rd, we all get our day to speak out and let our voices be heard. No one knows who you go in and vote for in that polling booth. You don't have to tell a single person on your way in or on your way out or ever, quite frankly, but go cast a vote for Donald Trump. Because, guys, final question here. I want to get both of your thoughts on this. What we are up against here and what could happen to this country if Joe Biden became president of the United States should be incredibly concerning to every single American. So, Corey, I'll start with you. Talk about why it's so dangerous, the prospect of a Biden presidency. What is really at stake right now?
Well, there's a couple of really important things that our viewers should know. Number one, Ruth Bader Ginsburg in the Supreme Court is likely to retire or not finish another 4 years because of her failing health issues. Donald Trump has already appointed 2 conservative jurists who don't legislate from the bench but understand the Constitution for what our forefathers wanted it to be. And if Donald Trump is reelected and Ruth Bader Ginsburg does retire, he'll have a fundamental opportunity to change the court for future generations, which means conservative values will be upheld for future generations. And Stephen Breyer, who's also 82 years old right now, is another member of the leftist side of the court that could also be leaving. That's a very important thing for future generations. And the president doesn't get enough credit for what he's been able to do to the federal judiciary, which is over 200 judges have been confirmed. That helps all conservatives in every state for generations. But more than that, Lara, look, Joe Biden has continued to cozy up to China for 50 years. When Donald Trump started banning flights coming in from China, Joe Biden did what everyone else does, called him a racist, a xenophobic, disagreed with it. Of course, we now know that Donald Trump was right because the coronavirus originated in China, and he said, we're not going to allow people to keep coming in from there. Joe Biden and his family, what I like to call Biden Inc., have made a lot of money off of Joe Biden's time in office. Whether it's Hunter Biden or it's the Biden family and Joe's brother, they've made a lot of money from people in elective office. And the opposite is true for the Trump family, as you probably know better than anybody. But you also have to remember something. This president's rebuilt our military. He has made our allies around the world pay their fair share to NATO, which Joe Biden said was a terrible idea. And he's warned our enemies that when you cross the line, unlike during the Obama administration, and you use chemical weapons on innocent men, women, and children like Bashar al-Assad did, there is consequences. That's 59 Tomahawk missiles to make sure that we are protecting people. This president has a philosophy that is very simple. It's called America First. It doesn't mean America alone, but it means America first. It means we're going to take care of our people. It means we're going to prevent people from coming into the country illegally, like every other civilized country in the world does. We're going to take care of our populations that need that. We're going to take care of our homeless and our disabled veterans. I'm going to give veterans who've served our great country, if they can't get the right health care at the VA, the opportunity to get it somewhere else. This president has delivered for the American people. And if Joe Biden gets elected, all of those things go away. We've seen what a Biden administration would be under 8 years of Obama, and we don't want to go backwards. We need to go forward, and that's what's at stake in this election.
But Bob, I even think that there's so much more that will never get talked about, of course, by the mainstream media. If Joe Biden were to become the president, God forbid, would he actually be the one running the country? Or would all the Democrat establishment folks be pulling the strings behind the scene? Would AOC and her socialist squad be the ones that are running the show? Because we see how they've been able to push him around and get him to go along with whatever it is they want. What are your thoughts on how scary a Biden presidency would be?
Well, Joe Biden's evolution as a candidate has gotten us about as far left as anyone can expect. And let's make no mistake here. The Democrat Party today is not the Democratic Party that my mother or my grandfather belonged to. It is a far left-wing radical enterprise. They've forgotten to fight for working men and women in this country. They have forgotten some of the basic fundamental principles that at one point made that party great. It is no longer. And Joe Biden leads a party that is full of radicals and extremists that cannot condemn the violence that's taking place in some of the large Democrat-run cities in our country right now. It's sad, but it's a fact. And if they refuse to condemn the mayhem, and that's what their party's going to be continued to be associated with.
Yeah, it's very, very scary stuff. Well, all the more reason we need everybody out there to register to vote and to get out on November 3rd and vote for President Donald Trump. Corey Lewandowski, Bob Paduchik, you guys are great members of the president's team. We love having you fight with us, and thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Before we wrap up the show, I'd like to encourage you all to like and share this episode, and please stay tuned into the incredible programming that we have coming up this week, including some very special 4th of July episodes. As always, text Trump to 88022 to stay in touch with us, and download our Trump 2020 campaign app to sign up for events and learn how to play a critical role in what we know we have to do, the re-election of our 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Thank you again to our guests so much for joining us here this evening on Team Trump Online. And as always, thanks to you at home for tuning in. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep fighting to make America great again.